A baby gorilla refused to stop knocking on a ranger's car until he followed it into the unknown. The damp, iron-heavy scent of the Appalachian mist clung to the windshield of the rugged 4x4, blurring the line between the sky and the dense, emerald canopy of the mountain preserve. Ranger Sam sat in the driver's seat, the engine's idle vibration a low hum beneath the symphony of the forest, the rhythmic clicking of cicadas, and the distant, mournful call of a mountain bird. Suddenly, a sound unnatural to the wilderness broke his concentration, a sharp, frantic rapping on the driver's side door. Knock. Knock, knock. Knock. Sam froze. In these woods, a gorilla's primary instinct, even in this specialized sanctuary, is one of stoic distance. Yet, through the glass, he met a pair of eyes that shattered every protocol of biological behavior. It was Charlie, a juvenile mountain gorilla barely 4 years old, his knuckles raw and trembling as they struck the metal. The young ape wasn't charging. He wasn't beating his chest in a display of juvenile bravado. His small, dark face was etched with a terrifyingly human expression of panic. His nostrils flared to catch the scent of the man he had known since birth. Charlie's breath came in ragged, shallow puffs that fogged the glass, and as Sam rolled down the window, the acidic, sharp smell of primate sweat and old forest rot wafted in. The gorilla didn't retreat. Instead, he reached a leathery, soot-colored hand inside and gripped Sam's wrist with a strength born of pure desperation, his amber eyes pleading for a bridge between two worlds. It was an invitation into the unknown, a plea that defied the laws of the wild, and as Charlie began to pull, Sam knew that to stay behind the wheel was to let a tragedy unfold in the shadows. Before we venture deeper into this mist-shrouded mystery and discover what Charlie was so desperately trying to show the man who protected him, I want to take a moment to welcome you to our community. If stories of the profound, unspoken bonds between humans and the animal kingdom touch your heart, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. We would love to know where in this beautiful world you are joining us from today. Drop a comment below with your location and the local time. Your presence here helps us continue to tell the stories of those who cannot speak for themselves. The relationship between Sam and the Northridge Troop had been forged over a decade of patience and mud-stained duty. The high-altitude sanctuary was a place of ethereal beauty and brutal reality, where the air often tastes of wet moss and the sharp metallic tang of cold stone. Sam had spent his years learning the vocabulary of the forest, the way the light filtered through the ancient oaks in shafts of pale gold, and the specific musky odor of a silverback's presence that signaled a keep-back warning. Charlie had always been the troop's spark, a mischievous, charcoal-furred spirit who would often somersault through the ferns, his belly full of wild greens and his heart full of play. To the keepers, Charlie was a symbol of hope in a world where these creatures were so rare. The bond was built on the rule of the glance. Sam would sit at a respectful distance, humming a low, guttural sound that mimicked the gorilla's own contentment, and Charlie would eventually approach, sometimes sitting just close enough for the heat of his body to radiate through the humid air. Toward Sam, there was a sacred trust there, a recognition that despite the vast evolutionary chasm, they were both sons of the same ancient earth. This wasn't a pet and a master, it was two souls sharing a corner of a quiet wilderness. But on this morning, the mountain felt fractured. For 3 days, the Northridge Troop had been silent, a chilling departure from their usual vocalizations that echoed through the ravines. The trackers had noted a change in the atmosphere, a heavy, suffocating tension that seemed to silence even the insects. When Sam found Charlie at the vehicle, The juvenile's fur was matted with dried mud and sticky pine resin, smelling not of the fresh greenery he usually thrived in, but of the stagnant, bitter scent of fear. As Sam stepped out of the car, the forest floor felt spongy and treacherous beneath his boots, the decaying leaves releasing a pungent, vinegary aroma with every step. Charlie did not run ahead. He stayed at Sam's hip, his hand occasionally brushing the ranger's trousers as if to ensure he hadn't vanished. The trek led them away from the established trails, deeper into a ravine where the sunlight struggled to pierce the canopy, leaving the world in a perpetual, eerie twilight of deep violets and bruised greens. The air grew colder, the humidity turning into a fine, stinging drizzle that tasted of old iron. As they descended, Sam noticed the clinical signs of a troop in crisis. Usually, a guerrilla trail is marked by the sweet, vegetal smell of discarded pith and the neat piles of dung that indicate a healthy metabolism. Here, there was only the smell of sickness, the cloyingly sweet, fermented scent of infection, and the sharp, ammonia-like odor of high-fevered urine. They found the troop huddled near a granite overhang, but the sight was haunting. The silverback, the mighty protector of the group named Atlas, sat with his head bowed, his massive shoulders trembling with a fatigue that no predator could have caused. Several females were lethargic, their eyes glazed and distant, staring at nothing as the rain began to fall in earnest, turning the forest floor into a slick, treacherous slide of gray mud. The veterinary staff had been worried about a respiratory outbreak, but this looked different. It was too quiet. There was no coughing, only a profound, leaden exhaustion that seemed to be draining the life out of the group one by one. Charlie pulled harder on Sam's hand, leading him past Atlas, past the nursing mothers who didn't even lift their heads, toward a dense thicket of thorns at the very back of the cave. The reveal came with a sudden, sharp intake of breath. In the shadows of the thicket lay Charlie's mother, Daisy. Her breathing was a horrific liquid rattle that vibrated through the very floor of the cave. As Sam knelt beside her, the smell hit him with the force of a physical blow, the acidic, rotting scent of a deep necrotic wound hidden beneath her thick fur. It wasn't a disease, it was a freak accident. A jagged piece of old, discarded farm fencing from a century ago had been unearthed by a mudslide, and Daisy had fallen onto a rusted iron spike that had bitten deep into her thigh, cutting through muscle and grazing the bone. In her attempt to free herself, the wound had become a jagged, festering tear that was now poisoning her entire system with sepsis. The rest of the troop, bound by an empathy so deep it was literally killing them, had refused to leave her. They had stayed in this damp, sunless hole, starving and succumbing to the secondary infections of the damp earth, waiting for a miracle or the end. Charlie had been the only one with the youthful energy and the learned trust to seek help from the upright one who carried the bags that smelled of medicine and hope. The why behind the mystery was a heartbreaking testament to guerrilla loyalty. They were choosing to die together rather than survive apart. The resolution began in a frantic race against the fading light. Sam radioed for the medical team, his voice cracking as he described the severity of the infection. While they waited, he had to perform the most dangerous task of his life, staying with the dying mother while the massive silverback, Atlas, watched with suspicious, pained eyes. Sam moved with agonizing slowness, his hands shaking as he poured clean water over the wound. The smell of the antiseptic, sharp, sterile, and biting, clashed violently with the organic rot of the cave. Daisy let out a low, guttural whimper that sounded like a sob, and for a moment Atlas rose, his massive chest expanding as he prepared to defend his mate. But then Charlie did something extraordinary. The juvenile moved between the man and the silverback, letting out a series of soft, reassuring grunts, his small body a literal shield of trust. For hours, as the veterinarians worked by the flickering light of headlamps to remove the metal and debride the wound, Sam held Daisy's hand. He felt the heat of her fever pulsing against his palm, the texture of her skin like worn, damp velvet. Gradually, as the antibiotics began to circulate and the pain-killing sedative took hold, the synchronized breathing began. The frantic, jagged rhythms of the cave smoothed out into a long, collective sigh. The tension that had held the mountain in a stranglehold for days finally snapped, replaced by the rhythmic, peaceful sound of a family finally allowing themselves to rest. This story leaves us with a philosophical legacy that challenges everything we think we know about the boundaries of the soul. We often speak of animal intelligence in terms of tool use or basic communication, but what Charlie and his troop displayed was something far more profound, emotional intelligence of the highest order. It was the sixth sense of love, a willingness to face extinction rather than abandon a suffering member. Charlie's decision to break the ultimate taboo of the wild, to seek out a human and demand help, shows a level of cognitive reasoning and faith that is staggering. It suggests that in the heart of the wilderness, there is a moral compass that points toward compassion, even when it defies the cold logic of survival. It teaches us that empathy is not a human invention, it is an ancient, biological necessity that binds all sentient life together. When we look into the eyes of a creature like Charlie, we aren't just looking at an animal, we are looking at a mirror reflecting the best parts of ourselves, the parts that refuse to leave a friend behind, even when the path is dark and the outcome is uncertain. As the sun rose the following morning, the mountain mist began to lift, revealing a world that felt new, washed clean by the rain and the collective release of a long-held breath. Daisy would live, though she would always walk with a slight limp, a permanent reminder of the day the forest nearly went silent. Charlie was found that afternoon sitting on a high rock, his fur drying in the sun until it glowed like polished obsidian. When he saw Sam, he didn't run to him this time. He simply nodded, a slow, deliberate movement, before turning to follow his mother back into the green heart of the sanctuary. If this journey through the mist has touched you, please give this video a like and share it with someone who believes in the power of the unspoken bond. Don't forget to subscribe to help us share more of these incredible stories from the front lines of nature. Before you go, we have one question for you. Have you ever experienced a moment where an animal seemed to communicate a deep, complex emotion or a specific need to you? We would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, even in the deepest shadows, no one is ever truly alone if there is love to guide the way.